Welcome everyone to our Tuesday special of education. So for those of you guys that are tuning in, welcome to the Voice of Polynesia radio and television from the Lone Star State of Texas. And we did make a minor adjustment on our days broadcasting. So typically we would air on Mondays for education, the education chapter of Voice of Polynesia, and due to some schedule conflicts, we will be changing to Tuesdays now. So welcome again to those of you guys that are tuning in. We're gonna play another song while we welcome those that are still coming into the page and to the video tonight. If you will, please like the Voice of Polynesia page, share with family and friends, and tune in for our broadcast tonight. Whamala ka ki mautolo ko mo whamole ka mo taimi ke mo ka mai mo ki whimoto atua gwao mele nei te tauwha ke o whahoka te polokalama whekaaki mo e ako he e whiawhigo ni o gu tauwha lele polokalama e whiawhi mo ni te ka kuhi ko e ngai whetoka ki e taimi ngawe kau ngawe me he Voice of Polynesia o ku liliu lewa e tau polokalama ako me monite ki e tūsite he wike kotoa pe whamaloa ka ki motolo o ku whamole ka mo taimi ki mo kau mai mo ki maua e hoa tāgoe ni ko te utau tai a pēr whai whasi ka taritari e tau ka hu mai ka ki motolo ko ku mai mo like e pēr si ko e Voice of Polynesia mo tag hangahi maheni mo ngahi kau ngā mea pēr mo kau mai me tau poloka mo kau mai me tau poloka mai whiawhi malo.
Si ilu beni mo alu ho signona te ufu ape he au ho kapo te ko hai te ne lava te mana tua ai o faanga ne ngangatu watching you go like a sunset fading away in me. I can't breathe without you. Why must you go? Fuck up hang out.
Okay, whamaloa ka ki mau tolu. Kumo o si mea i he tau mai mo ki mau e polo kalama koe ni. Koe e whiawhini. Koe tau a ahi he ahoni. Ko ku ki toko uawe o ku manofo I Texasini moia. Ko Janella Moala Langi. Janella, welcome to the show. And thank you for being here, Janella. Janella felt that she did not need to be here, but little does she know she needs to be here. So thank you, Janella, for being here with us tonight. Janella, our program, of course, focuses on education, and not necessarily like a classroom education, not all the time, but I'm gonna have Janella just kind of share with us a little bit of background of hers, her upbringing. Of course, I want you to introduce yourself and to also introduce your parents and where they're from. And from there, I want you to give us a little insight on how many siblings you have, their names, spouses, because they also may be known in the community as well. And we'll go from there.
Malo. Just kidding. Hi, I'm Janella Ofomoala Longi, and I'm here from Carrollton, Texas. I currently reside in Euless, Texas. My parents are Salimoti Moala and Sally Moala. He's from Ha'ano, Ha'apai, and my mom is from Idaho. So those are my parents. My mom's Palangi, and my siblings are Licia Moala. Oops, obviously the last name. Megan Hurd and Skylar Hurd, John and Jill Moala, and Jared and Val Moala. And they have a lot of kids.
So you're the youngest?
Yes, I'm the youngest. Save the best for last.
We'll find out by the end of the show. All right, so just a little bit about, tell us where your parents, or how did your parents meet and where?
My parents met at a dance in Provo, Utah. My mom was attending BYU, and my dad was on a break from BYU, Hawaii.
So like most parents, did your dad come to BYU, Hawaii on a scholarship?
That's a good question. I know that he had a scholarship to Fiji he went to Fiji for medical school and then got baptized back in Tonga and then went to the church college.
And what church is that, please?
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Awesome. And both of your parents still reside here in Carrollton?
Yes.
This is a uncle of mine that has helped out so much in not just my family, but also throughout the community as well. So, Uncle, if you're watching, howdy. Toki whakawhea toki ke hauha show e ka hao. Janella, so recently, not recently, but technically recently, Janella recently got married. Janella, can you share with us just a little insight on your when you got married and to who?
I got married in January of 2018 to Freddie Longi, and he's the son of Asta and Losana Longi.
Awesome. And the Longis have been in Euless for some time. I know probably just as long as I've been here in Texas as well. So as you guys are aware, from what Janella has shared with us, Janella was raised in a Tongan Palangi household. And me and Janella met when we were quite young. Her dad allowed Janella to come and spend some summers and weekends with us, and our relationship has blossomed since then, when we were little girls. So, real quick, Janella, I just want you to share with us what it was like for you growing up in a Tongan, Palangi, Tongan American household, if you will.
It was very strict. My dad was very strict, and my mom just followed suit. So we weren't allowed to watch TV on school days. Didn't really get to have many sleepovers. Come home straight from school and do homework.
I think that is most Tongan households. And unfortunately, you weren't a full Tongan. It probably would have been double that for the youngest, especially. So yeah, that's normal. That's normal in a Tongan household.
But there was a lot of love, and when my grandma came to visit, I didn't understand Tongan, so the first two phrases I learned were Tukuya and Teotae Koya.
Little did she know she was prepping you for your family now, because how many of your siblings married Tongan?
Just one.
So there you go. So Janella, your grandma was prepping you for the years, the generations to come.
Well, I am her namesake.
Tell us about you mentioned that growing up, homework and school, I'm assuming education was a big part of or was an important factor in your household. Share with us how that came about.
Education was the number one priority to my dad, especially, and that the love and the drive for education came from my grandma. She taught my dad an important lesson that a man could make his living by his, I forgot the exact phrase, but basically by the pen in his hand, that education was the key, and it was the access to freedom, basically, and to not have to work for someone else, not to be someone's workhorse and not to be someone's laborer, but to be your own boss and to succeed. Education was the absolute top priority, and after education it was athletics and any extracurricular that would build character and discipline.
So how many siblings does your dad have?
Immediate family, 8.
And out of those 8, how many got an education that you're aware of?
I believe all of them. I only have one. The oldest, that was my aunt. She was the only one that didn't know English like super fluently. Everyone else did. So everyone else went to school. Well, they all went to school, but I think she had to stay back and help with the house chores.
Nice. Very nice. So you mentioned earlier that your dad came to Fiji to study medical.
Yeah, he was going to be a doctor. He was there for a year. I'm not sure why he didn't stay the whole time.
And where did your dad end up graduating from or finish his studies from?
Atele, and he was the salutatorian, I believe. I don't remember what happened, but he was supposed to be valedictorian.
You don't remember the year?
60...
Man, we have
60.
Man, we have another Atele alumni. Okay. We were nowhere
66 or
thought about that time. Okay. So that's pretty interesting. I never knew that your dad went to Atele. There's a lot of Atele alumni here, so okay. So can you tell us how enforcing was your father with education for you guys to pursue college after high school? Because high school is typical, like that's the standard elementary, junior high school. But after high school, or even leading up to graduating, what was something that maybe like your parents enforcing you guys to go to school afterwards?
So education was literally everything to my dad. So he expected us to be on top. Well, in anything we participated in, so education and otherwise.
Okay.
But he expected all of us to go to college and get a degree. I think he wanted us to become doctors and lawyers whose foreign parents don't want them to become doctors and lawyers.
Right.
Well, lawyer not so much, maybe a doctor. But he just wanted us to use our talents and our means. Like literally anything's possible in America to attain as much education as you'd like. And so it was known, you just went to college after high school.
So how many of your siblings pursued higher education?
All of us.
Awesome. So we're not going to pick on them. We're going to pick on you because you're in the hot seat tonight. So tell us a little bit about you pursuing that after high school.
So
Did you want to go on to college? Did you not? What were maybe some setbacks on that?
I always wanted to go to BYU Hawaii since I was little, and I didn't get in at first, so I went to community college. So I went to the summers, I'd go to school at BYU Hawaii, and then I would come back and go to community college, which is embarrassing, and it's really difficult to understand how they choose which students they choose, because the acceptance rate is not high, but I feel like some kids that go there are literally there just to party, but then some that want to like super go there don't get in. But that wasn't gonna deter me. Like that was my ultimate goal. So I just got some other schooling under my belt, and I went. While I was at school at BYU Hawaii, I believe I was a freshman, I ran into a hale mate. The hale, they're the dorms. And it was so random. Like, I think she just asked me what I wanted to do. As soon as I said it, was like confirmed to me. Like, I just knew that's what I was supposed to do. I guess we'll get to that.
And so how many summers did you spend up at BYU?
2.
Okay.
Before I got in. Mm-hmm.
That's typically that. I mean, that's not embarrassing, but yes, it may be a setback to you, but to some people, that's probably a route that you have to go in order to reach where you're trying to go, or where you're headed in the future.
Oh yeah, that's not to bash community college. In fact, that's a really wise way to go, especially to save money, and you can receive similar education. For me, I just wanted to have the satisfaction of knowing I'd get in. And the dean of students, like he said, I was qualified, but for some reason I wasn't accepted, which is fine.
Just a minor setback.
Yeah.
So while you were going to school there, what was did you have any other setbacks before or after you were able to get through for a regular semester at BYU?
Initially, no. I just got tired of going to school. And then I did have one class that was beyond hard. Dr. Miller, he's a genius. Most people, like, his tests are 5 hours long.
Oh my God.
And no one passes those tests. The only way to pass his class basically is to go see him in his office, and I did not do that. We're off topic now.
And what subject did he teach?
Psychology. It was psych stats. Psychology, psychological, psych stats. Yeah.
Okay. What was your desire to study going into higher learning?
Social work. I just knew I was supposed to save the world, basically.
One life at a time.
One soul at a time.
Yeah, there you go. And did you? So I know that you also went on a church mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Was that before or after, or in between?
I had about a year left when I went.
Okay. And where did you serve?
Brazil, Manaus, in the Amazon.
And you've been back after to visit, yeah?
Yes. Shout out to my Brazilian.
You need to take me sometime. Let me learn a little Spanish before.
It's
Portuguese. Let me learn a little Portuguese before. See? Learn something new. So when you went to BYU, or during your studies, what are like some tips, or what are some things that you can share, just, your journey along the way with education that, could help any of our listeners or parents in, helping and encouraging their children to go to school at a higher level, and coming from a hafekasi. Not that makes any difference, but I'm just saying, like, your own personal experience.
I think it's important to take time with your kids, and even as a student, like even as a child of your parents, to take time and to really evaluate what you want to do with your life and how education plays a role in that. Education isn't just about getting a degree. I mean, it's literally, it's the concept of learning and continually learning and bettering yourself. And with knowledge comes power. With knowledge comes opportunity. Some people don't go to like traditional schooling. They go to trade school. Right. But I think as parents, to make it a priority, to know the importance of education and the opportunities it will afford you, and to encourage your kids. But also, education teaches discipline, among other things, and to basically, you have to walk that line with your child. I'd say most kids now aren't the most motivated when it comes to education and discipline in any form, really, but especially in education. So unless your kid is self-motivated, self-driven, they're not going to go very far without your help. So continually encouraging them and making sure that they're doing what they need to do to accomplish any goals they have in the near future, but as well as the far future. So if they want to go to, say, Harvard or BYU or Stanford or Yale, any of those schools, it's possible. You can achieve a scholarship. That was my dad's goal, was for all of us to get a full ride scholarship, if not academically, athletically. And the only way to do that is through hard work and discipline. So kids need the support of their parents, and they need to have goals in mind.
And I don't think for your siblings, or let me not assume, but for your siblings, you mentioned earlier that everyone got a higher education. Did any of them play sports to pursue that education?
John did.
So out of five of y'all, John went on a football scholarship.
And basketball.
Who else in your out of your siblings attended BYU Hawaii?
Jared and Licia.
Jared is married to another BYUH alumni, Val Paolo, and they currently reside here in Mullis, Texas as well. That's very true. Education, as we've talked about before, is not only traditionally in a 2 to 4 year college environment. We've talked about business trading, tech schools, and those are some outlets too that kids can pursue an education, and it's not so long. It's not traditional. It's not to where you have to pursue a certain amount of hours throughout several years, or a few years, in order to be able to get a certificate, get a diploma, and go out there and either join a business that is already established, or starting one on your own. And I also have to agree with with Janella on that because I did a little bit of both. I went to a junior college and went there for a little bit, and then I went to a business trade school, and then I went back to junior college onto university. But that's very true. Janella, share with us some insight on so you graduated with your interests of sociology, correct?
Social work and psychology.
Social work and psychology. So what made you pursue social work other than saving one life at a time? What was something that motivated you enough and drew interest in you to want to pursue that type of field of work, and maybe like your surroundings, either at home or along the way of your journey and wanting to pursue social work?
So I think something important to mention before I get into that is the importance of having confidence, building confidence, instilling confidence in your child or your loved one. So you could be the spouse of someone that's going to school, you could have a kid that's in school, you could be the child that is going to school. And confidence, love, respect, everything in the home, it's important how a home runs, because that's what produces happy, successful, not always happy, but successful and content people. Content's not the best word, but confidence is what gives someone a surety in something that they're doing. I always knew that I was supposed to help people. I always knew that I wasn't meant to make a bunch of money and to be just a business person, to just be working behind a machine. I knew that personal connection was everything that I was put on this earth for. That's literally, like, I've known it in my soul that I'm just supposed to help people, and helping people does not produce a lot of money unless you're a therapist. And even then, not all therapists make a lot of money, but unless you're like an administrator or something, that's where the money is. But then you lose the personal connection with the clients or the people that need help. Then you're just like giving commands. But I do think it's important to find out what your interests are and to explore those. Because sometimes you might think you want to do something and you get into that field and you're like, whoa, this isn't what I thought it would be like. Or we go through different stages in life. Like what you do for 10 years might be great and fulfilling. And then you're like, oh, I have this other interest I want to pursue. There's nothing wrong with, again, that's why I say that education is the key to unlock doors. And the more education you have, the more options you have to pursue whatever your interests are.
That's very true. That's also something that I have to agree with. I know a lot of times we tend to think that, we grow up knowing that everything is taught at home first. And I have to say that a lot of like my non-Tongan manners and life lessons have been taught in a higher education structure. Learning how to be patient, learning how to focus and research, and all those little things. And I tend to find myself telling my youngest nephew, who's currently in his second year in college, that we share those things, because he tends to see like what we teach at home is not necessarily what is being taught in the classroom in regards to like having patience and like being a little bit more generous in like a work education environment, rather than like a family being a family structured environment. And so those are I have to agree with that. Those are things that I did pick up and learn along the way, as far as like education goes. But yeah, so anything else in regards to you pursuing that area of work?
I think it's also important to know what is expected of whatever career, whatever path you decide to take. I wish I knew that when I went into social work that I would have known you basically have to have a master's to do anything with social work. Anyone can work entry level. Like social work, that's about $10 an hour. Most jobs are literally $10 an hour, and that's not a very productive paycheck to live off of. But a bachelor's will get you $10 an hour. However, if you pursue a master's, then you can make more of a living. So I think it's important to know whatever interests you to really educate yourself on, well, what can this do for me as far as how can I take care of my family? How can I make a living? Because obviously that is part of a career that you choose, is how can you survive? So I've done 1 year of a master's. Right now I'm not currently in the master's program, but I highly encourage, like, keep going as long as you can with your education.
Where are you pursuing your master's degree?
Financial situation.
Where?
Oh, where? I'm sorry. I said what?
Hey, we can get personal on here.
Texas State University.
Okay. And are you doing that online or in?
It was online, yeah.
So, and that's also another thing with the master's degrees. Typically, they offer those online to a lot of people just because of your flexibility and your time and stuff. So that's very true. Share with us in regards to your experience work-wise doing social work and the age group, maybe if you've worked with older people, younger people.
No, I'm very particular. I just like working mostly with teenagers, troubled youth, at-risk youth. I've worked at a few treatment centers, after-school programs, and I worked at one place that was like a psych hospital, met jail. It was like those kids had to be kicked out of or denied from 2 other placements, and we were the 3rd option, so it was pretty hectic. Also worked for the state in Utah, and all my work has been in Utah with social work. There are lots of opportunities there for it, and it's awesome. People really need, if they don't find happiness and love in the home that they come from, they'll look elsewhere. And that's what we provide.
I think this line of work also, as you've mentioned before, you have to have a lot of love for the work.
Passion.
Yeah, a lot of passion. I know me and Janella, we've traveled before to Jamaica. I'm just going to use this as an example. And we went out to dinner and we walked where we went to have dinner. And I don't remember if we saw him there before. Do you remember if we noticed? But anyhow, so after dinner, we got way more than we had expected. And on our way back, I don't even remember our conversation prior to seeing this homeless man that was on the side of the road, and all the food that we had when we packed it to take home with us, we were just thinking like, oh, we're here for another day, so this should last us. By the way, Jamaica is very affordable and cheap for those of y'all that want to go out there. Yeah. And so we, on our way back, Janella left all her food for this homeless man. She walked back and gave it to this homeless man, and he was so grateful. He took all the food that she offered him, and the rest of our walk home, Janella, was sharing how you have to have that type of feeling, and I think that just goes in with the passion that you have to pursue these types of field of work that you choose going into. You have to have the passion to want to make a change. And a lot of times, we're okay. I'm not gonna lie. Like most of the time, we're not going to, necessarily change like the entire universe. But the one person that we will the one person that we will touch, we will definitely make a change in their lives and going forward. And I think that, that's something that is important to pursue. Also, knowing that in order for you to have a career that is driven, that you have to know beforehand, can I make a living, or can I take care of a family, raise a family, live comfortably with just this bachelor's degree, because a lot of times, I know when I was going to school, after high school, it's like every job was hiring you because all you needed was a high school diploma. And then when you get closer to your high school diploma, like the next job that you foresee yourself going to, or wanting to pursue, well, they require an associate's degree. And then here you are going to get an associate's degree. And then on your way there, or, closer to graduating or finishing those courses, you see another job opportunity that's interesting to you. They require a bachelor's degree, and so forth. And I think that that's something that is important to know beforehand, while you're pursuing, so that while you're taking your current classes, you can also be taking classes to apply towards your next degree in line, or even if it's like a minor, you could be doing that along with your current degree that you're working for. Mm-hmm. But yeah, those are very good points, Janelle.
Yes, plan ahead, be productive. Productivity is education leads to being productive. Mm-hmm. Think of how much time is spent online. Social media takes up majority of everyone. I won't even say how much time it takes up in people's lives, but thank you for being here with us today, guys. But social media, that's so huge. Video games for kids, they're stuck to video games. How can we change? How can we flop that and the time that we spend doing those things? What can we do to be productive? Again, education is more than going to school. Read a book, turn off the TV, turn off the movie, turn off the social media, turn off the TikTok, turn off any distractions. And how can we be productive? Productive physically, mentally, spiritually. What can we do to free our mind and to do service for someone else? Education is all encompassing. How do we educate ourselves in any way? How do we better ourselves in any way?
That is so true. So before going on, I just want to give a shout out to those that have been tuning in or that has stopped by. Ahofa Lehauli. I think this is Lieutenant Mila. Thank you guys for tuning in. Salasi Taufa.
Lieutenant Colonel Mila.
Thank you for tuning in, liking the page, sharing it, tagging. Shout out to my husband for watching. My auntie and uncle, Siketi Samsoni and Meliane. Hope California is treating you guys right. The weather here has been dark and gloomy. But my ofat kamo malo e afemai. We have Ghislaine, is it Ghislaine Mateo, Tuatane Hautao. Thank you for tuning in, and Judson Hanks. Hey. Thank you so much. For those of you guys that are just coming in, or that has been with us, thank you guys for tuning in. We are talking about education. Again, education is not so much in a classroom setting. And tonight we have with us Janella Moala Langi, who is just sharing her journey with us, growing up in a Hafekasi household, family type environment, pursuing education, how important it was for her to, or for her parents to instill education in their home. her and her 5 siblings all attended higher education learning. And we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back from that, we're gonna kind of talk about her family, and how they pursued education and how that's applied to them throughout the past years. Janella, you want to add something before we go to break?
I'll add it after.
Okay, so tune in, tag, share, like the page, and we'll take a quick break and we'll be back shortly. Thank you.
I'm on my way to LA. Another rapper trying to get in this game. Deleting enemy who enter my space. It's the same where I stay. Out here hustling something most with a chase. From the bottom of the
Está imita magnifier good DJ. All right, so while we are pulling up another song, we are going to we're gonna go right into our next topic tonight. Again, those of you guys that are tuning in, malo e mole como taimi ke mo kaumai mo ki maua if you have goini go tau education ta faki ako foki o fa falele he if you have monite pe e hiki leva he kamata weekend o lele he tusite if you have tusite. So those of you guys that have been watching us on Mondays, tune in with us on Tuesdays going forward now, just due to some minor schedule conflicts. And welcome, Talamasina Hemuli. Hello, thank you for tuning in. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Share, like the page, tag friends and family. This chapter is about education and any kind of education that we can all learn from. Getau ako miai, getau vahevahe, getau matakali, whekawaki moe ako in general. So tonight on the show I have with us Janella Moala Langi, and she is from Texas, and we're just kind of having a discussion about growing up in a Hafekasi household with parents that promoted education. So we're not gonna talk so much about we are we're gonna talk more about her father and his upbringing and how his parents promoted and encouraged them to higher education and the importance of it. But before that, we're gonna talk about habits and how it needs to start young. So Janella, share with us your insight on habits.
So right before we were going to take the break, I thought of habits and how they need to start young. So with your children, remember whatever you want to pursue in life, whatever you want to become in life, whatever you want your kids, that you hope your kids become, habits have to start young. So if we're speaking of education, it could be anything, athletics, you want them to be a great singer, they want to be a great singer. Habits have to start young. If they don't start young, you'll be doing twice, triple, quadruple the work. So that could be setting aside time to read every day, to study every day. My dad expected us to read for hours a day besides homework and everything. Just because basically people that do read often usually are more intelligent. Not totally sure of the correlation, besides you do learn a lot of vocabulary and it just exercises the brain a great deal. And that can be leisure reading, that can be reading novels that you're just interested in. Or you could read a dictionary if you'd like to, but it's just simple. Habits start young. Need to start young, should start young, must start young. However you want to think of that phrase in your mind. But just ponder on that. Why do habits need to start at a young age? Then again, if you are older and you are just starting to realize the importance of education, the importance of anything in your life, no problem. Just get started. But it is helpful if kids start young with these habits, these productive, these good habits. And that goes for any part of your life. Your eating habits, your exercise intake.
What's a Tongan habit?
I went off on a tangent.
What's a habit that was instilled in you growing up?
A Tongan habit?
It can be a Tongan habit.
What's a habit that was instilled? So my dad, how he wanted us to be the best at everything. So like with sports, like we just had to work on athletics. But he always expected us to work on athletics by ourselves. So like even besides playing with our teams and our select teams and whatever, he would tell us like go shoot like 1,000 shots or go run this many sprints. Like he'd always say every time someone's sleeping, you go out there and you get ahead of them. Every time someone's going out with their friends, you go out there and get ahead of. Like he just wanted us to be on the top. He had the perfect like equation for us to be the best at everything. I think later in life that does build a little anxiety, but I mean his intentions were perfect. So basically when people are enjoying themselves, like you're working hard to pursue whatever you want to. You know, think of those kids that are like the top of their class in school. It's not because they go home and play video games all night. No, they're studying, they're doing their work, they're making the grades. the same concept for anything in life.
That's so true. I know that if you want to learn a Tongan Taulunga, for example, you want to learn a Tongan Taulunga, like you cannot just, get up and learn it right then and there. It takes practice, along with anything else.
There are parts to it, yeah.
And you have to learn, certain ways to like teki and, like lihaka and all that stuff. So that is true. That also applies to not just education, but just like anything in general.
Language.
Right.
Anything.
So speaking of language, Janella, how many languages do you speak?
None.
How fluent are you in Tongan?
I'm not.
But you understand it.
Barely.
You understand it more than you think. Janella, I'm Janella. I can pick on Janella about this because I'm Janella's personal assistant translator.
True.
So that's funny. That's something that going forward we're gonna have a Tongan. We've talked about it before, but we're gonna have like a Leafagatonga class for maybe if not the other nights, then for my night, just to have like some kids come up here. When I was helping with ETCC's Kalas Leafagatonga, most of the kids that we had come into the class were little kids. Elementary kids and just the younger ones, and they picked up on the alphabet so fast, and they enjoyed the little song that goes with it. And their parents would always share with us afterwards that they didn't know the alphabet, and so they've learned from the kids. And so those are other little habits that you can pick up. It's not necessarily kids learning from parents all the time. Parents can also learn from the kids. So we may have to bring that little class part onto the radio to teach our viewers and their kids Leafagatonga. So going into you mentioned earlier that your grandmother instilled work ethics, education ethics in her children. 8, you said? Your dad had 8 siblings?
9. Well, there were 9 of them, but one died as the baby.
Okay. And so something that was important to her was for them to be able to be leaders and stand on their own, and have to not have to answer to someone else. So can you share with us how that paved the way for your father, and what it did for him?
So it just lit a fire within my dad. He went away to boarding school when he was just a little kid, and there was no one to take care of him. He went to Pangai. I said that terribly, but
no,
so he would study all through the night till I think 11 o'clock at night as soon as he got home from school, besides like washing his clothes and making him a little food to eat. And then he'd wake up at 4 a.m. and light his little candle, his little kerosene lamp, and study until school started. That habit started as soon as he began school. It's ironic because my grandmother is from a small town that to this day, when I went there a few years, well, it's been more than a few years, there's literally nothing in that town. My grandma didn't have an education, but somehow she knew, and I almost think it was just the faith that she was blessed with from like Heavenly Father, that education would unlock the doors of
anything.
Life. Yeah. So ever since my dad was tiny, he studied non-stop, and he was always top of his class. And if he wasn't top of his class, it's because the teacher didn't like him.
They have those in Tonga?
Yeah, but it was just straight motivation that my dad knew what my grandmother taught was important. So my dad's the second to youngest in his family. He's the youngest son. And he just, from such a young age, he knew how important it was to just study his brains out. So
what did he end up learning or furthering his education in? Because he came with intentions of being a doctor or doing some kind of medical study. And what did he end up pursuing?
yeah, he originally wanted to be a doctor, and then when he went to church college, it might have just been the general education that he got, because I think he was there 2 years, possibly a little more.
Okay.
So I think it was just general ed, which they only have in America, apparently. In other countries, you don't take gen ed classes. So the core classes, science, math, English, history.
What led your parents to move to Texas?
My dad's job. He got an opportunity.
Who was he working with?
He worked for a man called Brett Davis.
Okay. And so
Or with a man.
and so what type of work did your dad do for Brent Davis that led him to come here? Or why did this gentleman move his business here?
Not totally sure. I want to say it was construction related, but that might not be the correct word.
Okay. And so how long, journeying on, were you born here in Texas?
I was born in Provo.
Okay. So moving here to Texas, you guys were all already born?
Yeah.
Okay. And so y'all moved here, and tell us a little bit about the work that your dad did leading up to now.
So my dad worked in Utah. My dad worked for Geneva Steel, and it is not known as Geneva Steel anymore. In fact, I don't know if that plant still exists near Orem. And he was a welder. So my dad, that's the earliest I know of what my dad did. So he was a welder, then he got a job down here. I think it was construction related. Also, while we were here, then he worked in California for a couple years, and we didn't move to California. Our family stayed here, and he just went and worked. And then he came back. It was all those jobs were all really related. And then he opened his own business about 20 years ago.
And so with that business, what type of business did he open up?
So environmental services, so asbestos removal and like renovations, remodels, stuff like that. I think people are bored now.
And no, not at all. This is going back to your grandmother paving that way, wanting him to, and the rest of his siblings, and so forth onto you guys, and so forth onto your children's. But this is what your grandmother, this is where this is going. This discussion is going. This is what your grandmother that you mentioned at the very beginning wanted for her children, for them to not be working for someone else, for them to be able to work for themselves, make something of themselves. And we don't have that so much nowadays. We do in our culture, in our community, and it may not so much be the same type of work that your dad's business is in, but it's the concept and it's the principle that you can do this, and it all goes back to the teaching of the habits at a young age, and studying, because nowadays we don't have to stay up at night with a candle or limit our studies because of daylight savings or whatnot. We don't have those those things to limit us from teaching and reading books. Like I try to read a book.
Now they have
Not
books.
yeah. See, and and
So-
that's the thing. Like the times have changed, but these teachings, they can still they're the same. It's just different in each household and each family.
Right. So, yeah, we have absolutely no excuse to not learn something. Let me mention my uncle who he moved to Australia very young. So it's my dad's older brother.
Yeah.
One older brother became a minister, a Methodist minister.
Can you? Sorry, no. Can you? As you're talking about these relatives of yours, can you mention their names?
I knew it. Okay, so my dad's brother, Eduate, he became a school teacher in Australia. He moved to Australia at a young age, met and married a Scottish girl.
Nice.
They had a family, beautiful family, and he became a school teacher. And it blows my mind. One time I was at a church building, like an old church building I used to attend. It was the Dallas 6th Ward, so near Carrollton and Farmers Branch. And I believe it was for a baptism. And I met, I think it was a girl who was actually a student of my uncle's in Australia many years ago because he taught primary school. What are the odds? This world is so small. And then my uncle Simote, he became a Methodist minister. So again, education is more than just traditional education. It can be spiritual, anything. And currently I teach seminary for the church that we attend.
What are the odds teaching traditionally and spiritually? Okay, so that leads into our next discussion. So we're just going to stir back and talk about Janella, because apparently she thinks that people are bored listening to her talk about her dad and his upbringing,
No,
but that's not the
his
case.
jobs that I'm
Yeah, but I mean that's leading, that drives, that drives the listeners into like a light bulb going off in their head, like, oh, I can do that.
Well, I couldn't name his jobs specifically.
And it's not so much that, I know a lot of times we tend to think that we get frustrated after some time, that our dreams or our goals are not like, happening like at that moment. And a lot of times that's not always going to be the case. As Janella has mentioned, they've moved from different places. Her dad has moved from different places, to be able to pursue and to get to, having his own business. And there are going to be like there will be speed bumps along the ways, and stops and yields that we'll run into, and we just have to embrace it, take what we learned from those speed bumps, those stops, those whatever it is that we run into, those minor setbacks, and start again, or take your drive in a different direction, but eventually you will get there. So Janella has mentioned, did you want to share something else before?
Thumbs up.
So yeah, thumbs up. So Janella also thumbs up on the page as well. Thank you, Talamasina Himuli, from Salt Lake, from Fuamotu. So maybe Talamasina is a family member of mine. My mother is from Fuamotu, but thank you for tuning in from Salt Lake. Thank you, Emily Wolfgram Mose, for dropping in. Again, share, like the page if you guys will. I want to also Selu Salema Fo'o, thank you for tuning in and liking our video tonight. Again, this is just open discussion. We're talking about education and how education was for Janella Moala Langi in a Hafekasi environment. Her dad is from Ha'ano. Where is your grandparents from?
Ha'ano.
both from Ha'ano. So Janella has also done some traveling herself, and I just want her to kind of share with us in your travels. I know you've traveled so much in the past, and I know you're not focused when you're traveling, that you're not focused on work, but you are very observant of your surroundings. And so what is something that you see that that is encouraging to you, that has to do with making this world a better living, making, wanting, encouraging you to make changes in your type of work field when you're out traveling?
Heal the world. You guys know that song? So before I get into that, I just wanted, something came to mind is like her bringing up my grandparents. I don't know if you guys can hear me very well, but her bringing up my grandparents and how I'm my grandmother's namesake. It's really important, and recognizing your identity. So your identity culturally, your identity, your family heritage, the name that you carry. Identity plays a huge part in who you become, right? And it's a huge part in who you already are. Right. So recognizing your worth, that will give you confidence to do what you need to do. And also sharing that knowledge of, hey, dude, you're worth so much, right? But personalize it for the person. That will help them become what they need to become. That goes along with how I was talking about if you have kids and instilling confidence in them. So I got my confidence from home, from church, and just excelling in things in life. But back to your question. How do I, even though I don't think about it while I travel, like how, basically how am I motivated to come and be, and make the world better,
be better in the field of work that you do, workplace wise.
It's just the recognition that people's needs never end and never stop, and just being observant and aware of what people need. I think when you take an interest in people, when you love people, you're happy to serve them, to help them, and you do recognize what they need. Basically, that never leaves. Even if I'm traveling, I'm still noticing people in need.
Right.
So never ends.
Right. That's very true. Because those are some things that kind of set a light bulb, when you're out, and you've traveled third world countries. That's why I was, that's why I brought that up, because those are the things that you will see that you may not be able to make a change there, but when you come home, you can definitely help out in one way or another.
So I'll say this, anytime you recognize a need in someone, that could be physical, mental,
right,
anything. I mean, act on it. So you don't have to be a social worker. You don't have to be a spiritual person, a religious person. Everyone has needs, right? We know what it's like to be hungry, right? Most of us, I could never starve. I would die. I would literally die. If you see someone in need, just help them. Don't, who doesn't want help? Everyone knows what it's like to need help, yeah?
Yep. Don't just walk by them and be like, oh, the next person can help them.
So this is not a religious platform, but a way that I know that I feel that I can help someone, sure, if I can't necessarily help them in the moment, is to pray for them. Because everyone has needs. Plenty of times we pass people when we're driving that obviously are in need. And yeah.
Yep, that's very true. I mean, that's something that we can do without, another person asking, is to pray for, for those people that we see, may need a prayer. So thank you for sharing that. So
lastly, on helping people, more outward versus inward. So put the mirror down, look out. What do people need?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you'll neglect yourself. Just when you help someone, you feel better, and they need it. So
True. So share with us some insight on your travels specifically back to Tonga. So you were born and raised here in the United States. You got a little taste of, Tongan culture, from, a parent that is, full Tongan. But what was different with you being born and raised here, and then your experiences, going home and being surrounded by, like, I'm sure, like, grandparents, aunts, uncles, like family members that only spoke Tongan, and just seeing like how Tonga is in general, because Janella has been back way more times than I have, and I came when I was 3 years old, and I have yet to go back. And so I can't ask you like, oh, is that store still standing, or oh, is that, is so-and-so still, there, or the schools. I can't, ask you those types of questions. But you can share with us, your take on going and seeing, our country, and how, your thoughts on that.
wait, I'm Tongan. All right, so
I think.
let me just say, when I'd ride the buses around, like, all the kids just stare at me and they're like, Palangi, Palangi. And I'm like, what? I don't look Tongan. So my first trip back to Tonga, I was 9. I mean, my first trip there, I was 9. And it was my favorite trip of my life until I hit like 22. But basically, it was amazing, but I don't really eat Tongan food. I love seafood, but I don't really eat Tongan food. Wasn't really raised on it. And my dad, I used to always say he's the most Americanized man you'd meet. He'll even speak English to Tongans, but and of course it bothered me that he never taught me Tongan growing up, but he saw no need for us to learn Tongan because he knew with English came opportunity, right? So what was it like? When I was 9, I ate at John's place. I'm sure many of you know John's place in town.
I thought you meant your brother, John.
No, I had fish and chips and a hamburger or cheeseburger all the time, which tasted like not like hamburger. It's probably horse meat now that I think of it, but
oh jeez.
No, I don't know what it was. And New Zealand ice cream and New Zealand chocolates, and then obviously bread from the bakery. So on Sunday I got super hungry since all the food shuts down, or it used to shut down, and just drank pineapple soda. That's the first time I had pineapple soda, and it was amazing. It came in a blue can. So this is so off on a tangent, but since then I've been back different times, and I went to the village that my dad's from, and it was humbling. We get there, and I only like water that's like ice cold. And I asked my little cousin, so it's my dad's first cousin's daughter, and I'm like, do you guys have any ice water? And this was 2007, and of course there's like no electricity on that island except for maybe at a church. Well, maybe they have electricity, but there's definitely no one has a fridge or a freezer. And we knew where the land was, like that my dad's house was on, but obviously there is no house there anymore. There's a big mango tree that's still there. And I did have the opportunity to go back in 2018 with my brother and my dad. Like, they went to all of the ancestral land, but I didn't go. I stayed in New Zealand, but I've been back more than that. Anyways, Tonga is blessed and amazing, and it's even better if you eat the food.
So now I'm assuming you have a more taste for Tongan food versus when you were 9 years old.
No. I'm such a picky eater, and that comes from my mom.
That brings to mind having horse meat hamburger?
Well, I've never had horse meat, so I don't know, but it tasted. It was good enough back then.
So seeing how they're raised there and how you were raised here, what are your thoughts on that? Did you get to visit any schools by any chance?
I didn't visit schools. What am I comparing?
Like passing, just passing by schools or talking with any of your like little cousins.
The school kids are the cutest because they're all in uniform, and the girls' hair is braided. The girls' hair, is braided. I didn't talk to them about their schooling, but what's great about Tonga is I think literacy is pretty good, but like they speak English, most of them.
I think a lot of schools teach English
good.
now.
Yep. And it's been like that for a long time.
Or I shouldn't say a lot of schools, but some that...
at least on the main island, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go into you pursuing school. What are you doing nowadays in regards to education and teaching? Share with us. You've mentioned it before, both your spiritual on a spiritual level and then on just a daily. So can you share with us your roles in that?
Just that I substitute in the school district here, HEB, and mostly sub, just junior high and high school. That's my preference. And I also teach seminary for all grade levels in the morning, 6:30 to 7:20.
So before talking about seminary on a spiritual side, your substitution. So what are some things that you see in regards to, do you work with a lot of the Tongan youth by any chance?
Oh yeah, I have one in every class.
Wow. What schools do you typically substitute in? Is it just HEB?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In the HEB area. So yeah, I would assume then that you would run into our Tongan students. What are some things that you see that may be fitting to education, just in general, with help that we can offer, in regards to like tips on, because we typically take these Tongan kids that you teach on field trips for TYAT and ETCC, and so a lot of times it's their first time, and then we have vets where it's their third time because now they're seniors, or fourth if they went the ninth grade just started a couple years ago, and they have insight to all these different things past high school level. And so you working with them on a day-to-day basis, and I'm sure I'm going to get different point of views from different educators, or it may be the same, but what are just some of your intakes on things that you can see that can kind of develop over time, or be brought like from home, or that the kids can be transparent to take back home with them in regards to promoting higher education or just learning in general?
So I'll try and answer your question, which probably the last couple of questions I didn't answer them very well.
It may be all over the place.
No. But I'll say this, that if education is not important in the home, if it's not important to you as the parent or the guardian or whatever, it's, especially with Tongan youth, it's not going to be important to them. I have yet to meet a Tongan youth that is just like gung-ho about education. Yes, you do have Polynesian kids that do well in school. Mm-hmm. I'd say mostly they're girls that do better. The boys are just so focused on sports. In fact, right. If you took them out of class and you just said, hey, you get to play football all day, I'm pretty sure for at least a couple weeks they'd be like, oh, perfect. So again, it starts in the home or what have you. So if education is important to you and important to your family, that will reflect in your kids, right? Is it always easy to study? Is it always easy to be motivated? Absolutely not. But if you don't take part in your kids' education, they're not going to yield the results that they need to or that's expected of them.
That's true.
Basically, again, it goes back to what are the goals, what are the plans? And it's not just for kids to have goals that are in school. I mean, like, they can be family goals. Like, what goals are we working on? As a person, what goals are you working on? You can't expect your kids to accomplish things when you're just watching TV all day and night. That sounds disrespectful, but
Playing games. I mean,
that's literally, I'll say this, kids will do what their parents demonstrate. And that's just what it is. Yeah. So if you can talk all you want, you can give them the right tools, but if you don't also demonstrate some of that discipline and what have you, it's not going to do much.
Yeah. No, that's true. And I know a lot of times it's not easy, because some of these parents, they have to work, 2-3 jobs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I get it. But the little time that they do have, they try to instill that, in the kids. And, most times they think that just telling them, that this is what you're going to do and this is what needs to get done. And then leaving that those are actually getting done in that time frame that's allotted for them to do that. And most of the times that's not the case.
And it's okay if you're obviously you have to provide for your family, right? So you're going to be working a lot. Right. You're going to have other kids. You're going to have so many demands. That doesn't lessen the responsibility that you have for your child, to your child, to help them succeed in life, right? And education is a big part of that. So you can check in with your kid, send them a text, how are they doing? You can communicate with their teachers. It doesn't take long at all to see the status, how your child's doing in a class, or do they need help? And even if you cannot provide the help because you don't know how to do that math equation, have them go to tutorials. I mean, it's literally all the little efforts that add up. If you literally just ignore the importance of something, namely education, for their whole life until senior year, and then they're not about to graduate, so you're like, you have to do your work, you have to do this, you have to pass, you have to graduate, or it's going to be shameful for the family. Forget the shame. I mean, literally, education is important. Don't wait till the last minute. Don't wait till they're about to graduate and then decide, oh, let me help you. No. Habits start young.
That's very true. What is something else that you see that can be beneficial, just, in general, to, everything that we've talked about obviously is something that you've seen already, but what is something that you see that can help from your end as an educator and to any other educators when they are interacting with the Tongan students?
So this is bad, but a lot of times I'll tell the kids straight up, I'll be like, don't be lazy, because it's embarrassing, because a lot of Tongan kids will do the bare minimum or do nothing at all. And literally, it starts in the home. If the parent doesn't care, if the parent is not, if you don't understand the importance of education, I've said this, your kid will not get it. It doesn't matter if they have the best teachers. It doesn't matter if they have the best educator of any kind. Yes, that's helpful, but if there's no expectation of your kid at home, good luck. Mm-hmm. So I tell the kids how it is. So I'll be like, don't be lazy, but I'll offer my help. I think if you culturally understand where someone's coming from, you can help them in other ways. So when I worked as a caseworker in Salt Lake City, obviously we had, you have people of all different ethnic backgrounds, right? But the office was almost completely white, like white workers. So when there was like a CPS call for a family who was, say, Polynesian or something, which I don't particularly remember it being Polynesian, but someone of a different race or ethnicity, that if you don't know how to approach, or if you don't understand culturally like expectations and just how things run, you're less likely to like permeate that person and help them. So just like if you think about going on a mission, what do we learn about, so this is for anyone that's listening that's LDS, and if you've been on a mission, like it's kind of like social work. You don't reach anyone unless you first try and understand them and try and relate to them, right? Mm-hmm. So it's the same thing culturally. You can't help someone if you don't understand where they're coming from, period, but specifically culturally. What are their values? What's expected? What is the norm? What are cultural norms? You know, we always think of Asians as like, oh, they're so smart, or Mexicans, like Hispanics, they're such hard workers. Right. You know, I don't know if I'm stepping on something. It's that type of thing. Asians have exemplified like what it is to study hard and excel in studies. That was repetitive, but basically one-on-one time, especially, there aren't that many Polynesians in the school district. Like there are a lot to me, but it's only like maybe a few at the most in a class, and reaching out to them personally. But so mentoring is super important. Help your kids find mentors if you cannot be your kid's mentor. And there are different educators that are Tongan in the school district. So
that is true. I've mentioned that before, that kids, or that I've mentored, you know, before, and a lot of times you do have to relate. You have to put yourself in their shoes, and you know, or know their environment and what they're having to deal with in order to relate to what it is that they're going through.
Yeah, so that brings up a good point. So when a kid, this has to do with social work, but also education. So when a kid is acting out in school, or when they don't do their schoolwork, or they're starving, or they're a mess, like they haven't eaten, they haven't showered, whatever the situation may be, not necessarily that they're a mess, but forgot the word that I was going to use, but yeah, you cannot help like a situation unless you know what's going on. Like right. That's like social work 101. Like if I don't know what the person's going through, like how can I reach them? How can I help them? You can't. It's easy to judge on the outside and be like, what hurts my soul is when people are like, oh, look at that homeless person, like they should just go get a job. Like that's not the right mentality. Like that's not helpful, right? So meet the person where they are and then help them how you can. And understanding home life is a huge part of helping youth, children. That's basically the birth of social work, right? So yes, understand a person before you can help them, or try to understand.
And that's true. And it's also difficult, you know, for a child, you know, to have to go through those things, but also as an educator to see that and, you know, want to do so much more. But, you know, it's so limited because you have to respect, you know, certain grounds as an educator, you know, and a student. Mm-hmm.
Let me add something. So
Sure.
This is a little bit going in a different direction, but
that's fine.
I mean, so we're talking about helping like school age children and things, but also us as adults will need help as well, right? Yeah. Also seek out mentors in your community. There's someone in Salt Lake who is dear to me. She's Samoan, but her husband is Tongan, and she was able to help me to know like what to put on my resume. And I was already in my late 20s or something which you would think I'd already know, but she, like, that was a key to me, right? So again, education, it never stops. It always starts, it never stops, and we'll need help no matter what age we become, right? So even if you don't know something, seek out the answer, seek out the help. And that could be for your child or for yourself. So
Or for
never
anyone else.
stop learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very true. So now a little insight on spiritual teaching. Because again, this is education, and it's it's education all across the board. So on a more spiritual level, and I know you've shared this with me. We don't have to go in depth, but just on a spiritual level, spiritual educator, helping or teaching with seminaries along with other seminary teachers. What's some feedback on teaching on a spiritual level? Or in a spiritual environment. I'm sorry, not a spiritual level, but in a spiritual environment. Or I mean, if you feel in that way too, that's fine too. But so instead of a classroom, right, setting, seeing like Tongan students that may need that push, or it all starts from home. What is it on a spiritual side or aspect as an educator, and how you're able to promote learning on a spiritual level?
It's the same idea of relating. So like I'm a little uncomfortable because I have a co-teacher, and so every time I teach, like, she's there, and it's intimidating because she really knows the scriptures and she's so sweet, and I just feel like I'm being watched a little bit, right? Which I am, and a little judged. Judge is not a word. Critiqued, maybe.
Yeah, I would say critique.
But I know she's not like critiquing me. She tells me she's not, but hello,
she probably is.
When you're teaching with an expert who's taught for years, that's intimidating, right? So just for me, it's really important to relate like to the kids, and obviously I'm gonna be like just encouraging, and I feel like it's kind of the same thing. And I do have several Polynesian kids in my class. Okay, they're all Tongan, but
your seminary class is all Tongan?
Yes.
Nice.
So I don't know, what do you want to ask me? It's like the same thing. Relate to the kids, and obviously it's a little less pressure. Like, I mean, it's all good vibes when you're teaching church stuff. Like, it has to be. You have to have a good spirit about it, right? So just personalize. You're personalizing the stories and the lessons to them. And a lot of times I'll just come up with my own questions and how I can, like, ask them a question and they can relate it to their lives. They can relate that gospel principle or that principle to their life. How can they apply it? And it's better that way.
So I'm glad that you brought that up, because that was something that I was going to go into, was and also the time frame, like when you're substituting, you're teaching for a longer period of time versus seminary, you're only teaching for an hour, and in a spiritual aspect, you have that help, from Bible stories, where you can, compare, to parables that, are taught over and over and over again, and also education too, in a high school, elementary, middle school level. It's something that's being taught over and over again, but you have more of like different, ways of teaching, or you can change it up. Whereas seminary, it's short time, and you already have those things there to compare and teach from. Go ahead.
Seminary is voluntary, but then I just lost the word that I was gonna say. Cemetery. So happy Halloween. Seminary is voluntary, but it's also What was I gonna say? But it is only
A different
forgot.
kind of
I
blessing.
had two airy words, but
All right. So on that note, we're gonna take a quick break before we wrap up tonight. Again, those of you guys that have been tuning in, malo mo kaumai mo gimawa polo kalamagoni, and we were or we are going to take a quick break before we return and wrap up. Thank you guys. Enjoy the music.
Beko hai e lava ke viki ai taranga pua tale fusi fola ua e sola kovi e kuloi hei kai hato e fie
All right. Thank you guys for those of you guys that are still with us on the show tonight. Pamalo atu ki he kau aahi mai ke Taupolo Kalama, Voice of Polynesia, radio and television from the Lone Star State of Texas. Tonight, our guest speaker was Janella Moala Langi. Ko e hawhekasi koe ni o ku Nofo Veiheni, Euless, Texas, Namatu Fagata Hake. But Janella is also a substitute teacher, and so we got some insight from her on a substitute level. Do you think you'll pursue like being a full-time teacher anytime in the near future?
No, the only things I'd want to teach are health and home ec.
Those are the two things that you want to only teach?
Oh, and psychology.
And psychology. Interesting. Janella makes some delicious cookies, except for that one time. There's always that one time. No, but Janella has shared so much insight with us tonight on promoting education and higher learning. Also things that we can look for, with not old habits, but habits, and starting young, teaching our kids those things at home. A lot of times we tend to think it will start from home, and it should start from home. But when they come to the classroom, these are things that can also help educators continue and teach and do their part as far as like teaching our kids in a elementary, middle school and high school level, and then also how higher education has helped her, and some insights on how we can help others around us, whether it's ourselves, our children, our spouses, family and friends, in pursuing higher education. And also just a little background of her work and her family as well, and how important it was for them. Anything else, Janella, you want to share with us in regards to your upbringing in a Hafekasi household, in regards to education? I'm gonna give up on that.
First of all, it's weird to hear my first name in its entirety, because not many people call me Janella unless they're like addressing me like a stranger. But I would just say in closing, to never give up and to build that support system in your home for everyone, right? Everyone needs support. So, and be that support to others, as well as ask for support in whatever you're pursuing, education and otherwise. But just in closing, like, don't give up. I mean, like, we all go through seasons, we all go through hard times, we all struggle. Like, our goals, no one's goals are perfectly met the first time. I mean, like, rare, like, they can be, right? But don't give up. If you struggle at something, keep pursuing it. If that's your goal and that's your desire and that's your dream, no one's your biggest cheerleader other than yourself and your family, and obviously Heavenly Father. But just, don't give up and seek that support and build that support system.
That's so true. And I'm gonna always encourage and piggyback off of our guesses for anything that they share in regards to education, and any struggles, any success in pursuing education. And this is not our, our show for education is not solely based on education, college education, pursuing a degree from a 2-year or 4-year, how you're getting there, but just in general and along the way, the journey along the way, the struggles, because every success story has struggles, and those struggles are what pushed you to make it to that finish line. And so I want to thank Janella for coming on the show tonight. Yes, ma'am. Yes, Nella?
No, just lastly, like, celebrate the successes along the way.
Absolutely.
Celebrate the successes when you do reach your goals. Like, have goals, small goals, big goals, lofty goals. Like, celebrate the successes, and it's okay. Mourn the losses, but move on, move forward. Move on is like, it can be a harsh phrase, move forward. So, like, keep going at it. Look at a boxer. A boxer, like a literal person that boxes. Normally I don't hold my hands like that. I'm a better boxer. But think of a boxer and think of the... Why am I so blank today? Think of like the... What is the word that... I'm sorry, guys. But when like you don't tire out. What is the word I'm... Like, you don't get exhausted. What is
exhausted? Yeah.
No.
Exhausted.
What is the word? Not their perseverance, but like basically how a boxer lasts. Like, if you don't understand boxing looks boring, right? Mm-hmm. But if you understand boxing, you know how much. What is the word?
When I think
stamina,
okay.
Stamina is not the word I'm looking for, but basically how much stamina it takes to be a boxer, right? Like. It looks like they're not doing much, yet they're using so much energy, right? Mm-hmm. And like a boxing match lasts forever. And basically, like, in your pursuit of things, be a boxer. Like, don't give up. Dodge those difficult times, but also just like keep it moving. Like, you just got to keep it moving like a boxer does, right? Can't think of the words I'm trying to use, but basically, like, you want something, you want to pursue something, do it. Don't give up. it can be done. It can be yours. Don't let anyone tell you that you're not smart enough. Don't let anyone tell you anything. Like, literally, especially if you're in America or in first world countries, like, the limits are endless, right? Like, you can accomplish anything you want. And if it's a good thing, go for it, right? Enough sermons for my kids tonight.
No, we need more. Yeah, that's very true. I think that a lot of times when people are kids, and people in general, they get discouraged, because they get shut down or they feel like they don't succeed the first time. And a lot of times that's how it's going to be, like you may not succeed the first time, you may not succeed the second time, but eventually each time you get knocked down, it'll just be a higher step, to reaching that goal.
I had one more thought.
Go ahead.
Sorry. So I recently witnessed the Zoom call of someone defending their thesis. No. Well, getting their doctorate, basically, right? In social work. She's half Tongan, half white. Grew up with her my entire life. And she talked about how her dad, like, he just worked with his hands, and that's a familiar Tongan concept, right? For men to work with their hands, right? We know that Tongan men work outside of the house and Tongan women work inside of the house. And it dawned on me, so her dad is the same, like, generation as my dad. And basically, commonly Tongans are taught, okay, men, you do physical labor, you do yate, whatever it may be. But can we not be that generation now? Can we not be that people now to know that there is more we can do with ourselves than just work with our hands? Let's use our minds. What good can we do? How can we provide for our families without just working with our hands and having that unsurety of an income, working yate or whatever it may be? Maybe you do make good money working yate, but it's very...
Like, what's a smarter way going about it?
Right. How can we excel? Like, Tongans are only known for if they're a good athlete or that they can sing well, right? But what are the fruits of their labors? What's really being produced? So yeah, we don't have to do everything for money or for show. No way. And in fact, some Tongans do things for show. But what can we do for good? What can we do to help ourselves, to help others? Help ourselves, that sounds selfish, but I don't mean it in that way. Like, how can we help people? And how can we move forward as a people, as Tongans? Like, how can we improve ourselves? It's very often that people are just content with doing nothing. Mm-hmm. They don't educate their mind. They literally work, and then it's like, do nothing.
Right.
We have to do more. We have to become more. And gone are the lazy days.
Yeah, and that's something that we all want, and if not, that's something that our parents wanted, and I'm sure that is the reason why they migrated here to this promised land, Fonua Talaofa. This is why, so that there comes a time where the next generation or their grandkids and now even great grandkids, we still have parents and there's elderlies that are fortunate and are blessed to see not just grandkids but great grandkids grow up and be able to do things to excel in those areas and try to do something more productive, but hard work, but less. It's kind of like that saying, work smarter, not harder. Mm-hmm.
So one more thing. So thinking of the analogy of like crabs in a bucket. So like Tongans might have the old mentality of, well, I can't excel because I have to help my grandma. I have to take care of my grandma. I have, all these excuses because you have obligations to your family. Well, right. I don't understand the Tongan culture perfectly because I don't know it perfectly. If I knew the language, I'd probably know it better. But the thing is like when you're pursuing something, when you're trying to excel, it doesn't mean forget your family, forget any obligations you may have, but also, what is the intent of whatever you're doing in life? What is the intent of, while it is good to take care of your family, also, you have to reach further. If not, you're all going to suffer. You're all going to float and then eventually drown, right? Air is going to run out of that floaty.
Right.
So you have to be making ways. Now I'm just lecturing in like Tongan, but English.
No, that's fine.
You have to make opportunities for yourself and for your family. Education is part of that. But remember, crabs in the bucket. What happens? No crabs get out of a bucket because why? Every time a crab crawls up, another crab pulls it down. So how can we as a Tongan people, how can we improve ourselves while lifting others
out of that bucket?
You can't have the excuse of, well, I have to do this, I have to do that. What can you do to better your situation? What can you do to better the situation for everyone around you? Don't let the excuse of, well, I can't educate myself because, well, I spend all day with my grandma. Well, you can play an audiobook. You can watch YouTube videos. You can go out and do, like, there are no excuses. Like, help your family, help yourself first, and then you can help your family, right?
Yep, that's true. And I mean, that's a good point that you bring up, because even though I'm first generation college graduate in my family, but I'm not the oldest, nor am I the youngest. But something that my parents made sure, my late father made sure that I instilled in myself, was just because I'm college educated and college graduate does not make me any better than the oldest or the youngest. And whatever weight that they have to pull, I need to help. I need to help in any direction that I can. And that's just not that's not just for my immediate family either. It's anyone in general that I see. My mother's side, my mother's an only child. My father, anywhere that I can see fitting to help, you help. And you don't help because it's a burden. You don't think like that. You help because you're capable, you're able to. And that's just something that is instilled in us Tongans. I'm sure in any in any culture, but just speaking for myself firsthand, knowing that when you make it, everyone makes it. When you succeed, everyone succeeds. In the family, in the village, that helped bring you up. So it's not just you make it and that's it. No, you make it and you return and you help in any way, shape, or form that you can.
I think that's my last thought. So
sure. No, that's good.
You guys didn't know you came to church today, right? This is like 3 hours long.
There's another 101 class.
So I just want to end. I hopefully this is the end, but with the mentality of, I know Tongans seem to, or used to seem to, care what other people thought of them. And I just want you guys to know that who cares, right? Like, it's just between you, and if you believe in Heavenly Father, if you believe in God, it's between you and him, right? What you do. Obviously, your parents expect respect. Obviously, your parents expect you to do what they've taught you. But what I will say is, outside of your family, don't worry what people think. In your pursuit of happiness, in your pursuit of excellence, do the hard work, put your head down, get to work, and grind. Until you achieve your goals, it doesn't matter what people think. Just don't worry about what people think. Have that confidence in yourself. Have that confidence in believing what you're pursuing is worth it. And as you excel, you're able to help others. Like we were just talking about. Don't worry about what people think outside of your family. Just do what you gotta do. If people have the right mind, they'll understand why you're doing what you're doing to better yourself and your family. I don't know how to word that any differently.
Yeah, that's true. just everything, and everything that we've touched on, starts from home, and is relatable,
and ends at home,
and ends at home, but it's relatable. Ki he anga tau tupu hake mo ngahi ako naki o ku whai mei api o ku kamata pe mei api. Pau ngahi tokoni ko whai api o tokoni le vaia ki he kau whai ako I he u whaitu o ako I he pureanga pe koe whare lotu e taimi o ku tau lava tokoni e tau whanau ke nau mao ngai mahino ma kehe ke tokoni ki he u whai ako I he u api ako ku nau alo ofa hoko nau ako iai pe toi tokoni be ke kau whai ako ke nau lava o tokoni e whanau ke popo I ke nau tolu ke nau lava o alo ako o pe koe ngau e mālohi pe ke nau o mao ha whonga mo ui ke nau tokoni ai family. And I think that's important for us to always remember when we're promoting higher education. It's not just education itself, but hardworking ethics, so that our children and spouses, any family members that want to pursue education, we've said it before, it's not age limited, it's not there's not a limit in learning. You can have many degrees, you can have all different sort of backgrounds that you can instill or you can grow to excel in, and it will help not just yourself, but your family, your upbringing, your children as well. And those are also good examples for those that are following in your footsteps, or that may look up to you as a mentor. And so those teachings do start from home, and it also is beneficial to the educators in a classroom setting to help their children want to pursue higher learning and hard work, so that they can work and be able to work smarter, not harder, and take care of their family at home. So yep, we're gonna wrap up.
Just be the link in your family for success. Be that link between your family and success. How can you help your family? How can they help you? Success is what it's about. Success not in other people's eyes,
right,
but in whatever you want to accomplish, that's a good thing, and how you accomplish that. Remember, it's not about what other people think. It's about the peace within yourself in pursuing something that brings you joy, happiness, and that you can help provide for your family if you have a family. Be happy, be joyful, be productive, seek education, do good in this world.
Thank you so much, Janella, for coming on tonight and sharing with us, as a hafekasi, as a educator, both in classroom and at church, and just your insight overall, American versus Tongan. And hopefully next time when you join, you'll speak a little bit more Tongan. But for... You can come and learn with the little kids, their alphabets, the Tongan alphabets. But again, I just want to thank you for coming on the show tonight, Janella, and thank you guys that have been watching and that have tuned in. Just a little shout out to those Talamasina. Hey Muli, yes, Naite, my mom is older than Faleiva. Faleiva's mom. Thank you so much for elaborating that. Okay, so definitely family. Tune in next time. Tag all the Fomotus, because I know there's a lot of smart Fomotus from Fomotu that are here throughout the state. So tag, share, like our page, share those with those around you. Meliane Fa, thank you for tuning in. Salasi Taufa,
you're next.
The end.
Salasi. You're the next speaker.
You must mean the end is coming. and Violan Siniva Wafisi. Thank you guys for watching. Hi, Janela Anite. Thank you guys for tuning in. Whamaloa ka mo tolo mo me amai ke tau ki poro kalame e whiawhini mo te whoki mai pe. Mana tu i ukliri we tau taimi, tau hoa ki he e whiawhtu si te he wike kotoa pe, whekawaki mo e ako, whekawaki mo a whainga ako pe, oku tau lava o lawe ki ai, ke tau mao ngai ilo mo ngai tupulaki me ai. So if you guys, those of you guys that want to educate us on something that may be beneficial, especially for our people, matakali, whatever it is, please feel free to reach out and let us schedule you so that you can come onto the show and share those insights with us. Atalanga Shaf, tuning in from New Zealand. Atalanga, na tau ki kamata vave poni, but ke haope me kore kako ki whai tau lotu tuku. On that note, I love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, Tuesday next week. And we will, actually, we have a good show next week. So hopefully you guys will return next Tuesday and tap in and let us know where you're coming from, and if you have any desires to learn about or hear about other insights, or maybe share with us something that your state or your city is promoting higher learning in, we can discuss that as well. So on that note, we will get out of here and let you guys be. Thank you again for tuning in. Voice of Polynesia, radio and television, Lone Star State.
Enjoy your dinner.
And invite us after we go to the gym. Tonight we're gonna go to the gym before dinner time. Okay, tuwa fatu malo. Bye.
Follow